Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Wow, people on there already. You're earlier than me today. Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Claire. Angela, I missed the last 2 Fridays as I've had my daughter and her 2 little girls visiting. Oh, how wonderful. But it's good to have you back. Good morning, everyone. If you are there, do pop a hello in the comments. Welcome to another very, very hot Friday. Summer, heat, all that jazz. Too warm to do anything. Still have to work. Yawn. But here we are in coming up to the middle of August. Where has time gone? I don't know. Lots of hellos coming in there. I think they save them up and then throw them all at me at once. Good morning, Alison. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Annette. Hello, husband. Can see you.
Don't that just sound so derogatory?
Sephora. Good morning, Sephora. Freezing here and good evening to you. Freezing here tonight, but gorgeous full moon. Good morning, Heather. Good morning, Emma. Did I misspell circle on the title? It was very early when I typed it this morning. I'll make sure to amend that. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Helen. Lots of lovely people. Good morning, Maharet. Good morning, Luna. Good morning, Karen. Been out with the dogs early. Yes, it's too warm to walk them at normal time, isn't it? Definitely too warm. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Tess. Been a while. I've been away in San Francisco and Mallorca. Bit of international jet setting. Go you. Although we've got the heat here. Good morning, Trudy. Good morning, Maria. Out of Facebook jail by the looks of it. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Mary Ann. Lots and lots of lovely people. It is so fantastic that you join me here every Friday morning. It is still the highlight of my week.
You're welcome.
Can you tell he's not working today? Got the day off today. I've got a big long list of jobs for you to do, don't you worry.
I know.
Yeah, started in the first lockdown, and that was 2.5 years ago now. And I still look forward to every Friday morning. Good morning, Andrea. Hope you're all coping well with the hot weather. No, I'm not. I don't like it. I'm an autumn-winter bunny, me. But we mustn't complain, really. Although the garden is really struggling. The plants do not like the heat. Good morning, Carla. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Sylvia. Good morning, Charlie. Sephora, weather looking good for your big day tomorrow. Yes, fingers crossed. Bit of a pre-wedding shindig here tomorrow for Emma and Vaughan. So fingers crossed. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Cos. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Penny. Good morning, Leslie. The first half hour of my talk is spent saying hello to everyone, isn't it? Which is good. I like it. Karen wants to know if your first job is making coffee, and if he's off. And if he's off, can you make
I can't see that on here.
Can you make a bacon butty?
Oh, okay, I can see that now. Thanks, Karen.
You've met Karen, the very lovely, bubbly lady with bright red hair that we met at Witchfest Midlands. Yeah, that was fab. So lovely to meet you and the rest of the gang there. Sue, we have a lake near us and it's now become a puddle. Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle. Hampshire, the county that I'm in, has got a hosepipe ban, although Portsmouth, where I am at, hasn't got one yet, but I can't imagine it'd be long before that happens. Janet forgot to say good morning, Pete and Eric. Eric is washing his feet. He is here, aren't you? You right? His face is right behind behind my name. Right. He's good. He's good. Good morning, Sasha. Good morning, Jane. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it was fab to meet you in person. Right, well, this morning I thought I still had a list of questions from the last Ask a Witch I did, where we only ever talked about tarot and didn't get any further, which is no problem. And the question is, do you always cast a circle? Do you cast a circle when you do a ritual? Do you cast a circle when you work a spell? Two different situations, perhaps. I don't know. What do you guys think? When you work a spell, do you always cast a circle before you work the spell? Do you always cast a circle when you work in ritual? Let me know. Pop your comments, pop your thoughts in the commenty bit. It's going to be a long day. I've got a lot of cooking to do. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. I will share mine with you, obviously, because, just because. And we'll see what we come up with. Angela says already 25 degrees here and we're not even in the south. I don't know what we're at already this morning.
Too warm.
Too warm, yeah, definitely. We're at 25 at the moment, supposed to get to 28, which is, if you're on holiday on the beach, somewhere exotic, wouldn't be a problem.
We don't have aircon.
We don't have aircon, no, that's very true. Christine, hose pipe ban with my neighbours means they leave the hose dripping all night long, so they have a tub full of water in the morning. Oh, well, that's just rude. Sephora, last week's tour was dangerous. 3 new lots of cards on their way to my house this week. Tarot decks, you never have enough. They're like crystals. You can never have one.
Blokes and t-shirts.
And blokes and t-shirts, yes. Never have one. Let's get some of these up. So, cause not if I'm at home for spells, but yes, for ritual. Same as me. Why don't you cast a circle when you're at home? Asking the questions for you today. Sue, always cast a circle for ritual, but not even thought about doing one for a spell. Okay, same question. Why? Why don't we do one for a spell? Good morning, Kerry. Alex. Rituals, yes. Spells, not always. Spells are often cast on the hop. Yes. Annette. Cloud and raining in the Highlands. We'd like some for the garden, but not till after tomorrow. Hannah, thank you for covering this. It's always confused me. Oh, well, that's what I'm here for. If I can shed light and clear confusion, then we're all good. Carla, ritual, yes. General spell work, no. Not a conscious choice, just seems to happen that way. Interesting. This is what I expected. Ritual always, spells not often. However, depends on the spell. Yeah, this is my general. Morning, Anne. Anne's also ordered 3 more decks. I make no apologies for encouraging tarot deck buying. I make no apologies at all. Because I don't usually cast a circle at home, as home has lots of protection already around it. Yeah, that's exactly my thought. I very rarely cast a circle when I'm at home, when I'm working a spell. My house has layers of protection around the rooms, around the boundaries. So I don't feel it necessary to cast a circle when I'm working with the spell, unless sometimes if it is something like a binding, I might cast a circle just to bring in a bit of extra protection. If I'm working with a spell with the world of fairy, I sometimes cast a circle just to bring in, again, that extra layer of protection, depending on what section of fairy I'm working with. I think it does depend on the spell. Generally, no, I don't cast a circle when I'm at home because my home has layers of protection on it anyway. In ritual, yes, always. And it's interesting to look at the actual circle itself. But we'll go through some of these comments first, and then we'll get on to that. Tess. It's going to get up to 31 degrees here today. That's warm. I see you were announced. Yes, I will be at the Artemis Gathering. Myself and the gang, Heather, Ness and Sue, we will all be at the Artemis Gathering. Should come to find me for a tea tasting session at my tent. We will do. Do introduce yourself though, Tess, and remind me who you are, because I'm really rubbish at remembering names. But we will definitely be there. That's Eric digging the carpet, just in case you wondered what the noise was. Christine, I have 5 rose quartz crystals and they are huge. And as I put them into a circle, I say the words casting my circle, and I do this for spells and ritual. Nice. Nice. Jane, tarot is addictive. It is. Got about 20 decks now, and 7 of them are Rider-Waite-Smith. One of the only decks that I don't have. I did not and never have taken to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's interesting, isn't it? I know it is the most common one, but they are addictive, definitely. And I never cast at home, as protection is the key, but I might if I'm in the garden. Interesting. I don't if I'm in the garden either. I think when I work with my house protection, I do the whole boundary, so I include the garden in that as well. So I never think about that. Maria, it's like protection bubble casting circles. Sanctuary around here needs something for outside now. So I include it in the boundary, so the garden is always included in that anyway. Good morning, Abby. Angela, ritual usually, always if not at home, but for spells generally. Both situations depend on the reason or the intentions of the working. Yeah, agreed. Emma, I tend to do a circle for a ritual, not often for a spell, but depends what it's for. I have my home protected like yourself, so I don't often feel it necessary for a circle. Yeah, I think that's the general way of thinking. As your home is normally protected anyway, if you're working a spell inside your home, then you don't feel the necessity for it. Tess, I always thought as a rule of thumb, always supposed to cast a circle. Maybe everyone has good protection. The time I've cast a circle for spell working, I can count on one hand, because that layer of protection is in my home. It's there already, so it sort of doesn't feel necessary for me. And it's coming up that generally that seems to be the general thing. Cast a circle for a ritual, but not for a spell. But it has to be on your own intuition. If you feel that you need to cast a circle for a spell, do it. There is no right or wrong here. We don't judge. I never judge unless you're wearing Crocs. I might judge just a little bit if you're wearing Crocs. I'm sorry, I really hate them. But I will still walk down the town with you. I mean, it's not, I'm not that judgy. But as a general rule of thumb, I think it seems to be that if you're working a spell at home, you don't worry because that protection's already in place. But for ritual, actually, even if I'm doing a ritual at home, I'll cast a circle. Good morning, Keith, and I'm just going to interrupt. Could you please give our teenage son a shout, because he needs to be up and ready. Thank you. Good morning, Keith. Full moon blessings to you too. Alison, looking forward to Artemis and proper events being on again. Oh, do come up and say hello, Alison. If you bump into us, that'd be cool. Jane, sometimes I cast a circle indoors just to make it more of a ritual. It has to be on intuition. I think if you feel that it needs it, if you feel that you do want to make the spell a bit more of an event, then yeah, go for it. No, there's no right or wrong here. Good morning, Andrea. Good morning. So, the actual circle casting, what is it? What do we do it for? 2 reasons. You cast the circle because Emma is judgmental about Crocs too. We're bad. Circle casting is for 2 reasons. One is to keep the energy inside. So when you're in a ritual, main purpose of it really is to raise energy for whatever purpose, whether you are working a spell, sorry, dry old do here, or whether you are working with deity or whatever your ritual is for, you raise energy. And the circle in part is to keep that energy within the circle until you're ready to release it. the other purpose of casting a circle is to keep out negative energies. Once you start working magic when you're in a ritual, it kind of sends up a big flare. It's like, look, we're doing stuff. And the spirit world or negative entities can all be attracted by that. It's like sending up the bat flare kind of thing. It's all attracted to the energy and not just good things. So it's a form of protection to keep out the negative energies that you don't want in your circle. And although we call it a circle, it's not a circle, if that makes sense. It's not two-dimensional. It has to work in a sphere. So it has to be, you cast your circle and you visualize or you walk around your circle, but then you have to bring it up above and take it down below to form a bubble, to form a sphere. So it's not actually a circle, really. You're forming a sphere of protection. It is as above and so below. One of the traditions that I work with, we cast a circle around the circumference, but then we cast a circle from east above to west, and then from west back to east below. So it forms a sphere, which actually makes more sense to me, because just doing a circle round you, two-dimensional, isn't going to kind of work. You need to form it into a sphere. I hope that makes sense. Christine, am I boring them by putting on my ritual robe? And as I light the candles, I introduce myself to the elements, guardians of the house. No, absolutely. If I'm doing something that I feel needs it, then I will absolutely do the whole thing. I also think for ritual in particular, it is about a bit of ceremony, isn't it? It is about, if you're honouring the gods or if you are asking of something from deity, then it's good to do a bit of ceremony with it. I do work rituals in my home, and if I do the whole setup and I do the whole thing. If I am just working a quick spell, then I don't worry. But it has to be right for, you've got to feel that that's the right thing to do, I think. No, I say there's no right or wrong. Carla, I always think if the thought pops into my head as I'm getting stuff together, then it's needed. Intuition. Always trust your intuition. Maria and Jane are having a conversation. You go, girls. Don't worry me. I've got quite good at leaping past the comments. You have as long a conversation as you want, ladies. I actually love that you guys are all friends with each other, so it's fantastic. Maria, deersil. Yeah, then now there's two words that you might come across, deersil and widdershins. Deersil means clockwise. Widdershins means anti-clockwise. So when you cast your circle, you cast it deersil, you cast it clockwise because you are bringing in that protection. So if you're bringing stuff in, it's clockwise. When you take the circle down, then you go widdershins, you go anti-clockwise because you are removing it. You are dissipating the circle. And again, when I say circle, we actually mean sphere. It's just... Christine wants hot chocolate because she's still waiting. She's been waiting for months for her hot chocolate. Timothy,
I cast... Give me the wrong address.
Wrong address.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you sound like a Just Eat driver. I cast circles to honour as above, so below. For me, casting a circle represents a kind of mini universe that I'm creating, absolutely, of which I am the divinity within. Franz Barden has some really interesting occult theories on this. I've been reading a book recently, actually. Have I got it here? Let's grab it. Yeah, I have a book by Peter Padden, Wumar from Modern Cunning Folk, and he's got some interesting ideas, non-Wiccan ideas on casting the circle. And he actually calls it raising the hedge, which I love as a kitchen hedge witch. That's much better for me. So I think it is, yes, it's the ideas and the traditions perhaps that you work with as well. But yes, you are creating sacred space, basically, aren't you? Safe, sacred space when you cast a circle. Sephora. been warned by Maori practitioners recently about practicing magic here in what they think of as an unnatural way in New Zealand. So we'll now always cast the circle of anything magical. That's a shame. I think the Maori spirituality is a beautiful one. Maybe talk to them if you can, or if you've got a contact with any of them, and share some ideas. Might be interesting. But yeah, if you feel that there's a bit of unrest, definitely better to cast a circle. Hannah, I've been visualizing a protective bubble of light around me just in case when doing spell work. If that's what you feel you need, Hannah, then do it. I say there's no right or wrong. You have to trust your intuition. But I think we've lived in this house for 27 years now, and I've been practicing magic for that entire time. So if there aren't enough protective boundaries and sigils and hot foot powder in this place, then I'm doing something wrong. So you have to trust your intuition, absolutely. Alison, second, Franz Barden, thank you. I don't know him. I've got a huge to read list. I'll add him to it. Oh, Jane, I have heard Deersil pronounced Jessel. Sounds kind of Worselish. It does, doesn't it? I'm going to say it as I see it because that makes sense to me. But I'm sure there is probably different variations on how to say it. Timothy, getting that book. It is very good. I can highly recommend it. It is, here it says, a practical manual of traditional non-Wiccan witchcraft. It is really interesting. He works with... he works with raising the hedge, which sounds brilliant and makes so much sense. They don't call in the quarters. They work with compass of deities. It's fascinating. It's one of the books that when I finished reading it, my head went bing, 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 bing. So, yeah. Sephora, should we be casting the circle the opposite way of the Southern Hemisphere? Your opinion? My opinion, no. Go clockwise, go anti-clockwise, the same as you would. If you're going clockwise, then you're bringing stuff in. If you're going anti-clockwise, you're getting rid of stuff. And to me, it doesn't matter what side of the equator you are. But again, you've got to work with your intuition. If you feel that it needs to be done the other way around, then do it the other way around. But I would say stick with clockwise, anti-clockwise, as everyone, the other side of the hemisphere does it as well. But that's just, my opinion, definitely. Stick with it. But trust your intuition on any of this. And I also think with rituals, when you're calling in the quarters, we've done rituals where we've been standing on the sea. Not on the sea. That would be a real miracle, wouldn't it? I cannot walk on water. When we've been standing on the beach by the sea. And the compass directions have shown us north, east, south, west. But the ocean's been on our one side, that the compass direction isn't west. So we've actually forgotten the compass, thrown the compass out the window and worked with the ocean as west. So I think you have to work with the situation that you're in as well. And the same for circle casting. If you feel you need to walk a certain way around, then trust your intuition. Janet's book list is never going to end. Mine's, I have coffee. That would be nice. Thank you.
No room in the kitchen.
There's no room in the kitchen. It's full of food. My book list, I've always got a huge pile of books to read and a long list of books that I want. Jane, it's sad that our craft is still very much underground in many countries. We don't know how lucky we are in the UK to have witchcraft and paganism so out in the mainstream. Absolutely. We are lucky. In fact, in the 30 years that I've been doing it, the only thing that I've ever encountered is people not believing that it's real. Believing that witches just exist in fairy tales and Disney and that it's not actually real. Thankfully, touch wood, I've not encountered any adverse to it. Emma, when I wore my robes, I felt so uncomfortable. And then when I spoke to the Morrigan, she told me off and said to wear whatever you like. I don't care. Fair enough. I thought wasn't going to argue. Probably best not to argue with the Morrigan. I've been to some fantastic rituals with the Dorset robe where we've been to Stonehenge, and they require you to dress up. And it is fantastic to wear all of the paraphernalia, your headdresses, your robes, all the staff, the whole works. And it does help to make it feel very magical. And I think putting a cloak on in particular is a bit of a key. It kind of switches you into that magical mode. However, when we've done Kitchen Witch open rituals, we have always been of the opinion that people should wear what they want and what they feel comfortable in, mainly because we had quite a number of people say, I've never been to a ritual before, I don't have any cloaks, I don't have any magical wear, does that mean I can't come? So I think you have to be open to wear whatever feels right for you, and what you feel that you need, really. Again, intuition, and some traditions, and again, different things. You know, whenever we've been to hand fastings or things like that, we've always dressed up. Christine, when I was beginning, I made the error of casting widdershins, and everyone called out that I was going the wrong way. I thought quick and said I wanted to get rid of the smell of cheesy feet. The laughter raised the energy much more. Yeah, we've had that in open ritual. People, you make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Air Gang's made mistakes. We've had that. Someone swept the circle in the wrong direction. But is it wrong? I think you've got to think, if it happens for a reason. Maybe the circle was meant to be cast that way. Maybe the circle was meant to be swept that way. Maybe you were meant to call the quarters in a different order than is on the script. So, yeah, it's the gods have a sense of humour, and, you know, they're okay with it. They're okay with it. I'm just kind of going through these and not sure, Maria, not sure whether you're talking to me or or anything. Sometimes it feels like there's too much pressure to me sometimes. I think with ritual, and I have been in groups where the requirement is that you dress up. That's fine. That's one of the group's ideals. It's one of their things, and I understand. If you're going to a ritual, you are working with deity, you are working with the divine, whatever you want to call it. So ceremony kind of works, and by dressing up, you're honouring them. But I've also worked a ritual standing in the middle of Dartmoor with no script and just off the cuff. So yeah, I think it has to work how you feel is comfortable working, and I think people have to feel comfortable, particularly if they've never been to a ritual before. You've got to feel comfortable and that you're meant to be there. So I think it has to be a personal choice and how you feel comfortable. Jane, people who think witches aren't real should go to Witchfest. They won't believe the sheer number of witches they can find in one place. Absolutely. Although the Witchfest in Croydon always has people shouting about it outside. Maria, always go the wrong way around. But it's not the wrong way, is it? I think if you're meant to go that way around, then you're meant to go that way around. It's meant to be. Sylvia, following Emma about wearing robes and that the Morrigan told her to wear what she wanted, do you think that the gods, goddesses, etc. are getting sort of more in tune with the time we live in? Do you know, I think they probably are. We've talked about deity before. Any deity that you work with is part of a relationship. You build a relationship with those gods. And as the gods get to know you and you get to know them, maybe they realize that you feel uncomfortable in all the gear, or, you know, at the end of the day, it is about that connection with them. It's about how you honor them, how you work with them. And if spending the entire month's grocery money on a cloak because you feel that's what you need is going to be kind of silly. So I think it has to work within a budget too, possibly. But yes, I think you could be right there, Sylvia. Perhaps they are getting a bit more with the times. But again, there's no right or wrong here. And sometimes I do feel the need to dress up and wear all the stuff. Sometimes I do feel the need to put a whole ritual on when I'm working a spell. You have to go with what works for that particular intent in that particular situation. So you should be able to laugh at your mistakes. Hey, you've been to Kitchen Witch rituals where we laugh the whole time. Karen, I was doing a reading and everyone was laughing as I had stood too close to the incense and my cloak was on fire. Oh no! That is the other thing. I'm not sure how practical cloaks are in ritual when you've got candles, candle flames, fires, incense. It's quite a dangerous combination, really. Alison, don't worry about messing up, as intent is the most powerful tool. I think this is it, isn't it? Does someone standing... Oh, look, coffee. Thank you.
Coffee for you, dog biscuit for
Dog
you.
biscuit for Eric. Hurrah. Smart. Glad you didn't get that confused.
No.
I think person A standing in their very expensive handmade cloak, medieval dress, dripping in crystals and jewelry, tiara on their head.
I can hear you.
Do they work better magic than someone standing in their jeans and t-shirt? Well, no. It is down to the intent, not just the intent. It has to have will and intent, but you also have to put the layers of spell together as well. You can work a spell just by looking up and asking the moon, but you can add layers to that with your spell working by adding a candle to it, by adding herbs to the candle, by adding oils to the candle. But if your intent and will isn't there, it's not going to work anyway. It's the different ways of looking at it. But yeah, what you wear should be irrelevant to the intent of your ritual or your spell. But there are cases where it helps add to it, I think. Maria's always felt you. Maria, you are one of us. You are of my people. Because stuff is going to work better if you feel comfortable. Absolutely. What's the matter? Did you only get one biscuit?
Yes.
Sorry, blanket for the dog. Okay. If your cloak is trying to throttle you or your pants are up your bum, you aren't going to be concentrating properly on the task at hand. Absolutely. I think there's two ways of looking at it, isn't there? When I put a cloak on, I do get that feeling of magic. It does switch you into a different mode of thinking. The practicality of it is perhaps not so good sometimes. So you do have to feel comfortable with what you're doing. Tess is throwing pronunciations at me. Always remember it in ballet terms. On the jour, yeah. On the jour, open the door, yeah. Clockwise. On the don. Close it again, anti-clockwise. It is. There are ways of saying things, aren't there? And I think there are also different accents, and each different accent is going to put a different spin on it. But I think, again, if it worries you, just call it clockwise and anti-clockwise. No one's going to shoot you for it. Jane, do people need to cast their circle widdershins in the southern hemisphere? This is what Sephora was saying. I think the circle casting should be the same no matter where you are in the world, because clockwise you are bringing things in. The clocks in the southern hemisphere still go clockwise. They don't go backwards because they're in the southern hemisphere. So I think the key clue here is in the name, in clockwise. Whatever way your clock is going, clockwise, and that is going to be exactly the same wherever you are in the world, then that's the way to cast your circle. And anti-clockwise to uncast it. But again, if you feel that it needs to be different, go with it. Angela, not necessarily the wrong way around. Maybe need to get rid of residual negativity first, then go the other way to bring in the protection. I do wonder that if you have walked anti-clockwise when casting the circle by mistake, maybe it is because the universe knew that you needed to clear the negative energy first. Yeah, I don't think there is a wrong necessarily. I think it happens because it happens. Christine, I wear my robe as I think it makes me feel the change between normal everyday stuff and doing magical things. Absolutely. It has got that kind of feel, hasn't it? As soon as you put that cloak on, it kind of appease you. You haven't got a cloak. Shall I have a makeshift cloak out of the blanket? There you go. I think it is about switching you into that magical mode, isn't it? And a cloak certainly does that. Again, for one of the traditions that I work with, they suggest having robes for any magical working, that you just a set of robes that you put on when you're going to be working magic, because it's a key. It switches you into that magical mode. But then the flip side of it, I guess, is if you are a witch, you live as a witch, you work as a witch, do you need to flip, or are you always a witch? I think is a personal thing, but I absolutely agree. There is that thing about putting a cloak on that kind of makes you feel very magical, or like Superman. Jane, people who practiced craft in the Middle Ages couldn't afford fancy robes. No, and I've noticed we think it's fancy to dress like them. Yes, funny, isn't it? I'm just putting on my fancy medieval clothes, which the peasants would have worn. Yes, but I think I've spoken about this before. We spoke about the deity. All of the images you see of deity, they're in medieval outfits. Why? Well, obviously the Roman ones are in togas and things, but the Celtic perhaps is a good one to pick on. Images of Celtic deities all have these sort of medieval Arthurian dresses on. Why? Yeah, interesting, isn't it? And as you say, if you go to Witchfest, you will see a sea of medieval dresses mixed in with goth ones and corsets and all sorts of things. It's interesting, isn't it? We do like to dress like them. Maria, you can do it in your undercrackers if you want. Well, there I guess we're leaning towards should magic be worked skyclad kind of thing. There is that, of course. Very early on, everything's just jumped there. Yes, they are, Karen. If cloaks aren't your thing, you could always try skyclad. You read my mind. Very early on, when I was doing my initial Wiccan training a million years ago, the thing was, some of the beliefs were that you should be skyclad when you do ritual or you work magic, and in fact that you shouldn't have anything, not even jewelry, because the jewelry would interfere with the flow of the magic. The clothes would interfere with the flow of the magic. It's obviously total, utter tosh.
Great word.
Tosh, yeah, that's a polite word. It doesn't at all. Your clothes are not going to stop the flow of magic. Your earrings are not going to stop the flow of magic, in my opinion. But that was when I very first started with the Wick. That was one of the particular beliefs that, yeah, you should work ritual or magic skyclad because it helped the flow of magic. I don't subscribe to that belief, but if you do, go for it. Just make sure you don't get arrested. That was the dog shaking. Sephora, I've just remembered I made my son a cool clock for Comic-Con. Oh, smart. Emma, there was an old coven that required white robes. When I used to wear them, I wore a deep red colour with feathers in my hair. I still sometimes wear my feathers in my hair and earrings to match. Sounds fantastic. When I was part of the Dorset Grove, we had druid robes, which were white ones. It's a traditional thing. It's a traditional. How old is tradition? Yeah. It was it was an honour thing. And part of the group that I was with, so that's what we did. Angela, I have a plain black wool cloak. Much prefer it to all the fancy pretty stuff I have. Plus wool doesn't burn if one should catch a candle or spark on the fire. There is that. I do have several cloaks. I have a black cloak with lovely blue lining. I think the dog's asking for his breakfast. Just,
Uh-huh.
I can hear a little whiny noise from under the desk. Yeah, I have got a black cloak. Well, my mum made it for me years and years ago when her daughter was very tiny because she picked out the lining colour for me. And that is still one of my favourites. I was gifted an autumnal cloak, which is brown with all fake autumn leaves sewn all the way around it, which is lovely, but the clasp undoes very easily. So I'm forever kind of pulling it back on. And I was also gifted a beautiful blue, patterned blue one when I was initiated at Stonehenge, and that's lovely too. But I do find I'm forever kind of pulling the clasp bit down. Maybe I'm a weird shape for cloaks, I don't know. But there is something very special about them, certainly. Christine, I wonder if the pants up the bum with so many witches do magic in the nude. Perhaps that's what it is. Perhaps that's what it is. Jane, you could do a ritual sweep with a broom with the shins before using athame, wand or finger to go to. Some traditions do. Some traditions absolutely do. And we've done it in open ritual before, where someone has walked the circle anti-clockwise, sweeping. Bear in mind that when you do ritually sweep, the broom doesn't touch the floor. This is very wise to remember when you're out in a field, because the broom will collect leaves and dog poop if you make it touch the floor. But yes, some traditions do. The circle is swept anti-clockwise to clear it of negative energy first, and then it is cast clockwise. Makes sense, really, doesn't it? Christine, robes and hoods were worn to hide their identities if they were seen. Secret identities. A cloak's kind of got the idea of invisibility too, hasn't it? Oh, I'm going a bit Harry Potter now. But it is that idea, isn't it? And we actually, if you work with psychic shields, you can visualize a robe being your psychic shield and pulling the hood down as well so that you aren't seen. Yeah, it works, doesn't it? And you'll see a sea of purple vela. Purple is a very witchy colour, isn't it? Definitely a witchy colour. I like a bit of velour. Claire, I think everyone has their own way of getting into the zone. Absolutely. Plus, circle can be a good reminder to open up and close down for beginners. I think that's it as well. If you are, if I work a ritual, an open ritual, kitchen witch rituals, everyone is welcome. And we do get a lot of people that are new to it. So we try it and explain things as we go along, and we try and do all of the steps so that people understand what we're doing and how a ritual functions. If I work a ritual with the girls, just the four of us, then it would be quite different, because we don't need to do some of the steps because we're all ancient in the world of magic. So I think it does depend on your situation as well. Batman and Superman weren't a thing, no. Sephora, wasn't Wicca led by a bloke, hence skyclad idea? I think we have Gerald Gardner was a naturalist, naturalist. He liked to be naked. So I think it may possibly have influenced some of it. But everyone seemed to go along with it, and a lot of people seem to like the idea of working with it. I have always said, if the idea of working ritual naked appeals to you, then go for it. I think you should try it once just to see on your own, obviously, so you feel safe and comfortable. Just to say, no, I've done it and that's not for me. If you get invited to a ritual or a coven or any kind of magical work where they insist that you go skyclad and you feel uncomfortable, run as far away as you can. Never ever do anything that you feel uncomfortable doing. It's got to be right for you. There is that, Angela. In our climate, I'm sure the deities don't want to see all the goosebumpy flesh. Get arrested around here for dancing about naked too.
Yeah, I know.
Karen, dressing, casting circle, etc. all helps to get your mind ready. Yeah. And remove the day-to-day worries that constantly swirl around in your mind. A spell cast with a wandering mind could go anywhere. That's the other side of it, of course. Working spells has a habit of being unpredictable anyway. Everything has to fall in place. Your words have to be specific. The intent has to be strong and specific. The will has to follow it and back it up. So there are a lot of things, words gone, within a spell that could go haywire anyway. So you have to be focused, because otherwise it'll go all over the place. But it has to be your choice whether you want to dress up or whether you want to cast a circle. But it can put you in that frame of mind. Again, two ways of thoughts. I'm a witch 24/7. I'm not a mother and a wife and a personal assistant 9 to 5, and then I turn into a witch. I am a witch full time. Even when I'm doing my personal assistant real job, even when I'm doing the housework, even when I'm cooking for millions of people for a party, I am a witch. So do I need that to extras? Do I need to put on a cloak to turn into a magical person? Do I need to cast a circle to work a spell? It's different for everyone. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think it's different for every person, and I think it is different for every situation. But the whole idea of putting the cloak on, the whole idea of doing the ritual, does switch you into that magical working mode. Emma, I was choked by my cloak. Not good for an asthmatic. No. Panicked so much we had to cut it off. Cloaks are scary sometimes. It's back to comfort. Well, comfort and safety. It is back to comfort, isn't it? If you don't feel comfortable in it, then you're not going to. Christine, Alex Saunders liked naked women and men in ritual. It's the old school, isn't it? It's the old school Wicca. The members of the band that set it all up all quite liked the idea of naked men and women in ritual. Was it a sign of the times, maybe? I don't know. Who knows? I wasn't there, so I don't know. So I think really it has to be absolutely a personal choice. And is it perhaps a little bit outdated now? Perhaps. But again, if that's what your coven does, if that's what you are comfortable doing, then go for it. I'm not going to judge. Unless you do a naked ritual wearing Crocs, then I'm going to judge. Janet, not sure about robes because most would be too long. I'm just a little over 5 feet tall. One of mine is quite long, and I do find I'm picking it up the whole time to walk. But we're back to being comfortable. Has to be comfortable for you. Karen, I always feel an urge to go into the garden naked when there's a raging storm. First time I did it, my husband was mortified. He's used to me now. It's being at one with the elements, isn't it? I understand that. I do understand that. So I think really you do have to trust your intuition when you're casting a circle.
10 minutes, man.
But understanding what it's all about too. Why are you casting that circle? And how do you cast the circle as well? In the open rituals, we've done all sorts of things, generally involving someone walking around the circle, around the outside of the circle, but we've had it where they've scattered flower petals, where they have scattered herb mixes, dried herb mixes, seeds as well. You have to be careful if you're in a public place and you are casting seeds on the ground though, because they grow. We've also done it where someone's walked around the circle blowing bubbles. So, do what works for you. Do what is in keeping with the ritual. It depends on the ritual, the time of the year. Whenever we've worked a ritual for a specific deity, we've often cast a circle with a herb mix that has been dedicated to that deity, and it corresponds to all their characteristics. Dried flower petals always look lovely. For hand fastings, we've often done rose petals scattered around to cast literally a physical circle so that you can see the circle. Some traditions will do it with a rope of a certain measurement and put the rope around so that you literally have a physical boundary. And of course, if you work with generally the Wiccan idea is once your circle is cast, it's there until you take it down again at the end of the ritual. So if you forget something, you have to cut a doorway with your athame through the circle, walk out, get whatever it is you've forgotten, come back in again, close the door with your athame. When we work ritual, we generally work on the idea that the circle is flexible. We're thinking big bubble here that's flexible. So if I forget something, if I have to go outside the circle to get the cake, that circle stretches with me. So that's how we work it with kitchen ritual. But again, it is going to depend on your training and on your tradition and how you feel about it. But casting the circle, it can be done in so many different ways. You can visualize all sorts of colors. You can visualize any kind of thing, really. Visualization is endless, isn't it? But physically casting as well works quite nice, particularly if you are at something like a hand fasting where there are probably people there that don't understand paganism or what you're doing. It's quite nice for them to be able to see a physical boundary. But again, go with what works for you. Christine, definitely a sign of the times for naked rituals. Personally, would scare the gods and elements if I was seen doing naked rituals. Yeah, you and me both, Christine. No, that's not true. We're all beautiful. We are all beautiful. But yeah, I always think that, a group of people all naked, surely you're going to be focused on the fact that you're naked in a room with people that are all naked. Surely you're going to lose your focus. I think so anyway, but Jane, nude circles remind me of beautiful hair back in the 60s. No. I think perhaps it was, although Wicca started before then, 40s-ish, which probably very risque then. But I think perhaps it was of its time. But again, I'm not judging. Sephora, as I'm learning, I like that the kitchen rituals always have a circle. Our rituals always will. We always cast a circle for rituals. My spell working at home, no, I don't cast a circle. But whenever I'm doing a ritual, the kitchen rituals and even my rituals I do at home will all have that circle casting. Kitchen rituals, we tend to just visualize walking a boundary. My rituals that I do at home, I tend to work with the idea of casting a circle round and then up and over and under, so that I've got more of a sphere there. Maria, you can get short ones on eBay. No, you can get cloaks in all different lengths. Maria says she'd scare herself. Yeah, that's one too. Yeah, cause waft incense to cast a circle. Yeah, if you walk around the circle with incense is good too. If it's an open ritual and you're in a big windy field, it's not easy to light incense from experience. Karen, my friend, made a shorter one for me as she does it full-time job now. There are lots of very skilled people that can make cloaks now to order. Sephora, what's the story with the circle of salt like in the movies, or is that just Hollywood's version? You can cast a circle with salt, absolutely, and I have done it before. That noise is Eric chasing flies. I've cast a circle with salt before. Salt's protective. It cleanses, it purifies, it protects. It does all of those things all in one little handy package, basically. So you can absolutely cast a circle with salt. We don't tend to do it in the open rituals because we're in a field and I don't want to be putting large amounts of salt on the soil. But you can absolutely cast a circle with salt. It works. It works brilliantly. If you've got the room and the space, a nice circle ring at home is good on the floor, then you just sweep it up afterwards. If you've got somewhere outside and it's a pavement or cement or tarmac or something, you can draw the circle with chalk. But yes, salt is brilliant for it. That's excellent to use. Sylvia, I find the cleansing you do afterwards just as important then to cast the circle before spell work. To me, having a bath or shower resets myself and no lingering intent, as it's just for that, to reset and cleanse myself from the spell work I did. Yes, we haven't really talked about the aftermath, have we really? So yeah, you cast the circle, you do your ritual, you do your spell work, whatever it might be. But there is the clearing up afterwards, isn't there? So when you take down the circle, you do it anti-clockwise. You can walk anti-clockwise. You could sweep up all of the salt, flowers, herbs, whatever it is that you physically cast, or you can just visually see the circle dissipating into the air. With just a simple cast circle, I just visualize it all kind of not burning up in flames, but just kind of disappearing. When I cast my circle with the circle round, above and below, then I do the same. I just see it all kind of retracting and disappearing. But yes, that's just as important as casting it is removing it. But yes, clearing up after your spell work too. Deciding how you need to dispose of the items from your spell. There is a blog that I've written on disposing and ending spells to give you some ideas, but it is just as important. And there is the idea of having a ritual bath or a shower before a ritual as well to cleanse your body. What we tend to do, and what I tend to do, is smudging with smoke before I do a ritual. We've often done it at the kitchen witch ones too, where we smudge people as they enter the circle. So yes, it is just important to be aware of clearing up and taking down the circle afterwards. Claire, let's hope Google Maps isn't updating if you're doing a naked ritual. Generally, they tend to be in the evening, I think, so we should be all right. Tess, supposedly ghosts cannot cross a salt line. Yes. Salt's been used in a lot of Hollywood stuff, hasn't it? From Hocus Pocus to Spiderwick to all sorts of things. And it is. Salt is a protective boundary. That's the whole idea of casting your circle, is so that negative energy cannot get in. So the idea of ghosts not being able to cross a salt line is solid. To ground afterwards, yes, absolutely. After any energy work, and that's spell work, healing, rituals, anything, you need to ground. And eating chocolate is perfect. Yeah, be careful with salt in the grass. As I say, it is. That's why we don't use it in the open rituals, because it is really bad for the grass and the soil. Emma, due to illnesses, I sit down to cast a circle. Absolutely fine. Move my hand around me and then expand the energy around me using visualization. That's how I do it at home, Emma. If I'm doing a ritual at home, I will do it quite often sitting down, because not many people have got the room to prance around with a wand casting circles. So sitting down and visualizing is absolutely fine. So not fly sky raisins. He has caught 4 sky raisins so far. What we have to do is dissuade him from eating the chili sky raisins, because they wouldn't be good.
What do you like?
Well, we don't want him eating bumblebees anyway.
No.
Janet, I don't put salt in the ground. Eggshell, yes. Crushed eggshells. Cascarilla. And I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Crushed eggshells. Brilliant for casting circles too. Absolutely brilliant. Angela, Peter often unconsciously casts a personal circle around him, us when we're shopping. Yes. Psychic protection. Brilliant. People join the queue behind us and then move to another queue. Yes, I think psychic bubbles, personal protections, shields, whatever you want to call them, whether they are in a bubble form or a cloak form, whatever form you like to work them in. I have the whole Star Trek shields up kind of thing, are brilliant to use in public places. Sylvia, if you need just a circle for yourself, you could even use a hula hoop. Hula hoop would be brilliant. I don't use it as I like to use a salt and do the movements, which I usually say some words with, but technically you can use that and no salt in your house either to hoover up. Yeah, you can. You could use a hula hoop, you can use a piece of rope. If you don't want to visualize, if you want something practical, then that would work brilliantly for a little solitary ritual. Jane, I see my circle as neon blue toothpaste coming from the end of my wand. I like it. And pull it back in like a big loop of spaghetti afterwards. I love your descriptions, Jane, but that sounds absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Maria, if you have a sound bowl, you can use that as you walk the circle. Sound is brilliant. You can cast a circle with sound. You can cast it with sound bowls, crystal bowls, chimes, bells, drums. We've done drumming before, casting circles at the open rituals. We've also cast a circle where everybody stands in circle and holds hands, and we walk. We start walking clockwise, the whole group holding hands, walking around in a circle, just walking around in a circle and getting faster and faster until me, High Priestess, does my bossy bit and claps so that everyone stops. But then you cast the circle with the energy of the people that are in the group that you're in. Difficult to do in a solitary ritual. Although I suppose you could turn round on the spot, couldn't you? Spin round on the spot and cast the circle that way. You're working with energy to form a shield, basically. So, and I mostly use a blue bubble went out, but sometimes with mirrors, as I do feel people's energy and need to protect my own energy. We're on to psychic protection, aren't we? Maybe I'm going to write that down because that's another subject to cover, isn't it? Psychic shielding. Shielding. I'll do another talk on that at some point because that's a fascinating subject to cover as well and very useful. Sephora, enjoying the last super moon of the year here. Yes, it's got some fab energy. Tess, that's hilarious. When we have cast a circle with everybody walking around holding hands. We've also done the whole spiral dance thing, which is just chaos. Emma, I remember a book suggesting to place your athame in the ground where you enter your circle. Still do that. It's brilliant. Still do that as it protects the entrance of the circle. You can cast the circle with an athame, a wand, your finger. I've also done it with a sword, which is incredibly heavy and cumbersome to move with. But yes, placing that at the entrance to the circle would be brilliant. Christine, holding hands and doing a fast spin to cast is Tam Campbell's way of raising energy for rights. I was knackered afterwards. Yeah, it does take it out of you a little bit. Sephora, can you ring bells instead of sound bowls? They're a bit expensive. They are expensive, and they also, you have to find the one that suits you. So far, every sound bowl I've heard sets my teeth on edge. So, yes, ring bells instead, or the little chimey things. I got some somewhere, those things. And yes, you know they've got a proper name, but I don't know what it is. That would do it too, or just about. Be perfect. So hopefully that's given you some ideas. I'm past time already, and I've got to go and pick up my glasses and cook a whole thing. So busy day today. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all your ideas and insights. I think it's always fascinating to learn how other people do things, and how you work with the different things for something that's relatively simple, like circle casting. There are ting shars, they're called. Thank you, Christine. Emma's being told off. Georgie says good morning. Good morning, Georgie. Tess, supermoon was amazing last few nights. Yes. Didn't realize it was supermoon. Should get your moon book. Spiral dance is one of my favorite ways of raising energy. It's a bit hazardous in a small space like Treadwell's basement. Yeah, I bet. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it's always interesting to share ideas, and for me, that's how these talks have evolved, in that we share our ideas and insights and how everybody does their own thing and works everything. So always fascinating. No right or wrong. Trust your intuition. So have a very fabulous weekend, everybody, and I will see you all next weekend. Take care.